All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today. I am your man, Horb J. And I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I've got a really great content for you all that I think you're going to appreciate. So apparently, Ayo Shanaiya, who is the director of Afrobeat The Life Story, he's now coming up with season 2 of that documentary. So I see if the first one was not bad, it wasn't bad enough. Now he wants to do a season 2 of Afrobeat The Life Story. And I want to cover this and I want to give you guys updates on this because I'm going to follow this story because I had the inclination, I had the hunch that he was going to come up with a season 2, even though the first one was a total disaster in terms of the credibility of that documentary. And for those of you who are newly subscribed to this channel that and aren't aware or familiar with the issues behind that documentary, I'm going to play you a clip from past videos that I talked about because there were issues with this documentary, which is why this documentary did not perform as best as it could have performed. I mean, imagine a documentary that talks about one of the largest music genres today, one of the largest music genres, not really having a global success as it should have had, especially when it was produced by one of the largest networks out here, Netflix. And to not have the type of viral experience for that documentary goes to the credibility of it. Not to mention that Ayo Shanaiya was never interviewed by any major network. So I'm going to talk about all of that, right? Which goes to the credibility of that. Because when you have a documentary like Afrobeats, right, being covered by a major network like Netflix, normally that will spark a buzz with most media platform. You know, he was never interviewed by any major media platform. He never got any interviews with BBC. He never got any interviews with CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, CBN, or CBS. None of these major platforms interviewed him, and I can only imagine it's because they knew that the credibility of that documentary was shattered. It was a farce. And so most of the interviews that he got were local interviews. The biggest of all of them was Arise TV, whom I'm a huge fan of Arise TV. I'm a huge fan of them. And I'm going to play you a little clip also from Arise TV where they pushed back at him. They really pushed back at him in terms of his agenda with this documentary, his whole belief system with calling it Afrobeat with the S and going along with this, and called him on it when he was against it. They reminded him. There was a time you were against the Afrobeat with the S. Now you're with it, and he like fumbled around that. I'm going to play you a little clip up on that. But the biggest of all the local interviews he's gotten when he released that Afrobeat, the life story, I should say, last year was with Arise TV. Every other platform he's been on, we're just like really struggling YouTubers, struggling channels. So he never got major interview, right? And you guys know me. I don't really think that having major, getting interviewed by any of these white media networks is the all and be all. You guys know me on that. However, he went to Netflix and asked Netflix to give him a platform to do this interview, to do this documentary. And to be snubbed or not to get any publicity interview by that type of white media network says a lot about the credibility of that documentary. So now he's got another one he's trying to come up with. And he's shooting this in Jamaica. I'm going to give you the reason why I believe he's doing Jamaica. I will give you that because you're going to be shocked at what I'm going to uncover for you all today. But first of all, let me give you a quick reminder of what the first one, Afrobeat, the backstory, the issues behind the first one. And then I'll talk about what's going on with the second one, and then we'll wrap this video up. So take a look at this for those of you who are new to my channel and aren't aware of what we've been talking about as it relates to this documentary. So take a look at this real quickly. And what I disagree with is that he credits Ghana for the creation of Afrobeats. Understand, and let me be clear, that is totally false. Ghana did not create Afrobeat or Afrobeats. It is not a Ghanaian creation. Okay, understand that. And I've talked about this in my past video, and I'm going to touch on it again on this stream. It is not a Ghanaian creation. Ghana did not create Afrobeats. So it is irresponsible, with all due respect to Mr. Ayo, who I admire, and I appreciate his really kind of taking this task on. But if you're going to tell our story, you need to tell our story properly.
Word.
Okay? Because
Word.
it is a legacy.
Word.
Right? No one takes their country's legacy or takes their legacy of a particular people and just mishandle it. You need to be very careful what you put out there.
Word. And that is a key part that I want you guys to remember. If you're going to tell our story, then you need to tell our story properly. Otherwise, don't tell it at all. Period.
And so it is not Ghana. Ghana played a role, as well as many others played a role. Juju music played a role in the creation of Afrobeat, Fela's Afrobeats, funk, jazz. So Ghana alone, or High Life, is not the only thing that played a role in Afrobeat. There were a lot of other songs that inspired the creation of Afrobeats and also Afrobeats. Okay, so understand that, right? So that's where I have a problem with Mr. Ayo, because he puts it out there and creates now this, what I would call a conflict, where it further divides and takes away from Nigeria. And that is my problem with this. Mm-hmm. Because when you think of Nigeria, and here's the problem I have about it.
Okay, so I'm about to talk about what I talked about, and the issue with what I find this documentary to be. Is a very divisive documentary. And you're about to learn why I have really been against this the entire time. On top of the fact that, that the information that he put out in the documentary, which is saying that Afrobeat was the foundation of that came from Ghana, which is obviously a lie. It has been disproven many times. I've talked about this on this platform. We even have Ebo Taylor, a popular guitarist who was right there, a friend of Fela. At the time Fela was alive. He was there when Fela was thinking about this whole thing. And I've talked about this many times. I've uncovered and talked about how Ebo Taylor even said it from his own mouth. He's had series of interviews about this, where he even confirms that Afrobeat was started in Nigeria by Fela Kuti. Ghanaians had nothing to do with it. We have stories like that, right? But it doesn't stop a guy like Ayo Shanaiya from going along with Western agenda, right? So here is my biggest issue with this. On top, besides the fact that it's a lie, but here's my biggest issue with this. It is okay for people to label Nigeria as a corrupt country. Mm-hmm. It is okay for people to point out the bad things about that country. Mm-hmm. But when that country now finds and develops their own music, mm-hmm. right? Now they have a problem. They want to merge it with the entire continent and say, this is a continent music. This is our music. This is for the continent of Africa. No, it is not. Afrobeats is Nigerian's creation. It's Nigeria. Okay? Yes, Nigeria represents Africa. Nigeria makes Africa proud, and we are so very glad about that. But to lump everyone in and to lump the entire continent into a music genre and say any music coming out from that continent is Afrobeat is where I have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. Because where is Nigeria's music in that then? Where is our legacy in that? Because anyone from, let's say, Kenya, from Congo, mm-hmm. right? The way this is now being marketed and the way the world has now taken this and they're running with this is now it takes away from our country and our legacy and the legacy of Fela to where now if music coming from Congo is Afrobeat. Now I'm sure Congolese would not like that. I'm sure a lot of Kenyans won't like that either. Most especially Nigerians, right? Because I would like to make sure that if Afrobeats with an S is what most people recognize to be Nigeria, because Nigerian artists are dominating, then it needs to stay in Nigeria, right? That means when anyone talks about Afrobeats or they stream it or they look for it on the streaming platform like Spotify or Pandora or whatever, it needs to be understood that that's Nigerian.
And so let me clarify that. So because I don't want anyone thinking that somehow we aren't trying to share our music. We want to share our music, and we love that our music is enjoyed by everyone. That's not the point here. Okay, that's not the point that we're making here. Because we want our music to be enjoyed, and it's enjoyed by everyone. That's not the point. The point that we're making is that we're having people like Ayo Shanaiya give credit to other countries for the creation of Afrobeat. That is the issue. And you've never found this with any other music genres out there. You've never found with hip hop. Can you imagine Run DMC? Just think about it for a second. Can you imagine every single time a documentary on hip hop, on one of the many documentaries that have been done about with hip hop? Can you imagine Run DMC? You know, Ice Cube, LL Cool J, the pioneers of hip hop. Can you imagine them sitting down and saying that hip hop was a Jamaican invention? Even though we know that the originator or the person who started hip hop is credited, he was a Jamaican national, which is still debatable, by the way. But however, this is what they pushed out there, that DJ Kool Herc was the one that started hip hop, right? And so that is what you find out there. But can you imagine, even with that, the pioneers of hip hop, you know, those who were the early adopters of this and blew it all out. Can you imagine when they sit and talk to them and talk about this music genre, hip hop? Can you imagine these ones? Just think about it for a second. Give credit to another country for what they created, blood, sweat, and tears. Can you imagine that for a second? Okay, can you also imagine Jamaicans when they created reggae? Can you imagine these guys that put so much sweat, blood, and tears to expand Jamaica to where we've all known it to be? Give credit to another country about it. No, you can't imagine that. It's the same reason why we're not going to let it happen when it comes to Afrobeat music genre. We're not going to let it happen. And so even when someone is trying to get the bag, because I understand that this is all about the bag now. You have a guy from Nigeria who is given an opportunity to do a documentary pushing a Western agenda to take away credit from Nigeria by ascribing Afrobeat's origin and foundation to a different country. Nonsense.
Music. And so they need to create another opportunity for Ghana to come up with their music. High life mixed with pop. Whatever they want to call it, that's fine with me. What they're marketing and what this documentary has also helped to do and promote, which you're going to hear it from Ayo himself, is that Afrobeat is an African music. No. Yes, it's partly is, but no, it's Nigerian music. Understand that. Okay? And Nigeria is in Africa, we get that. So Nigeria represents Africa. There's no other time in history where one music genre, and I said it again, when one music genre represents an entire continent. So the idea that Nigeria now, Nigerians, Afrobeats, somehow is representing the entire continent, it's a delusion. It's a robbing of that legacy, because any one of those countries can claim it.
And here is the point I was trying to make early on in terms of my issue with this, beyond the fact that, of course, it's a lie. Ghana had nothing to do. The foundation of Afrobeat isn't from Ghana. I mean, this guy overlooked
his own country. He overlooked the Yoruba land, the Yoruba culture. The entire documentary, the first one, right, overlooked because the whole documentary really kind of focused on the 90s era. Okay? The 90s era. The 90s artists. The early artists in the 90s. That's what that documentary really focused on. The entire 12 episode. Okay? So he overlooks the 80s, the 70s. He doesn't do a deep dive into the Yoruba culture, the Yoruba music, which Fela was a Yoruba man, comes from the Yoruba culture. He doesn't do a deep dive with that. He doesn't do a deep dive on the Igbo culture and the influence that played also in with Afrobeat. He doesn't do a deep dive with none of this. He goes across to a different country to go and interview those people and try to ascribe credit to them, Ghanaians. And now I'm going to tell you this season 2, he's in Jamaica now. You want to hear what I think his reasoning in Jamaica is? I guarantee you this, that he's going to try to link Afrobeat to Jamaica. You didn't hear me. Okay, let's just keep going. That's a problem for me. Okay, so take a listen to his. Let's watch this real quickly.
And I have to make this clear. I say this without any fear, that Afrobeats is our music. And when I say our music, it belongs to us, Africans. We invented that genre. And really, I believe that we have to protect it. As this genre is now going global, we have to protect it. It's like reggae. Everybody knows reggae comes from Jamaica. There's no discussion. There's no story. You understand? So Afrobeats is from Nigeria and Ghana. More so Ghana. Because I have to be honest with even though I'm Nigerian, I have to be honest with what I'm saying. The foundation of Afrobeats is from Ghana.
Okay, so that's why he lost credibility with that. That's right there. Can you imagine, the gall? And he even said it, that we have to protect the music, but he is not protecting the music. When he makes that type of inflammatory statement, which is obviously false, which is why I believe, personally, he has not been interviewed by any major network or platform, because they know that that platform has no credibility, the entire documentary. And the last thing they want to do is offend you. I mean, if you don't know it right now, the African market, the Nigerian African market, is the cream of the crop. People are coveting you, which is why Netflix has been, because Netflix is a dying network. Okay, Netflix is dying off. And so they've been coveting the African market. And they wanted to jump in front of this whole thing, in front of this whole Afrobeat thing, by coming up with a documentary. And it's really failed in terms of the popularity and in terms of the credibility of it, which is why Ayo Shanaiya never got coverage from any other credible media source when that came out. Can you imagine having a documentary like Afrobeats on Netflix and you never got anyone, in the West to even interview you? Not even one. Okay, so that says a lot about that. And then you see him say that we need to protect it, but he's not doing that. And he even talks about how reggae, no one argues that reggae came from Jamaica, because you know why no one argues it? Because Jamaicans are not going to allow anyone. Same thing with African Americans. They're not going to let anyone dilute their effort with their music genres by trying to pull other people into it. See, you'll find silly people like this guy, whose agenda. I'm so disappointed with him, because he, like me and like many Nigerians, have been labeled negative things. And this is the part that really teased me off. He, like many Nigerians, have been labeled negative things. And so when his countrymen come up with a music genre, and you find people like Davido, Whiskey, they're over there hard at it every day. Burna Boy. These guys are like breaking barriers, trying to improve the image of Nigeria. You have the guys like this guy who wants to give it to another country. Can you imagine that for a second? So the reason why no one argues that reggae came from Jamaica is because you will never find a Jamaican national that will sit in front of anyone on national TV or any platform and try to dabble around and say, oh, Jamaica, we're all Africans, and actually Jamaica came from, via African route to, reggae came from via African route to Jamaica, and what? And even when Stonebwoy said that nonsense last year, you remember that? When Stonebwoy attempted to outrage Jamaicans by saying that actually reggae came from Africa because Jamaicans and African Americans were all Africans one time and they were all sold into slavery. Trying to make that connection, which is nonsense. Which is nonsense. You're not going to take it away from them, and you'll never find any African American tell you that hip hop somehow was a Jamaican invention, or somehow was inspired by Jamaicans. You will never find none of these people it was clearly understood when it came to these music genres, right? Even though a Jamaican national is credited with starting hip hop, but nonetheless, you will never find that type of narrative whenever it is a documentary, hip hop documentary by any one of the pioneers of hip hop. They're not going on and talk about, oh yeah, DJ Kool Herc, Jamaican, and Jamaicans help us build this thing. No. Because you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to offend a lot of people, and that is not even true. And so, but, you have guys like this guy in Nigeria who doesn't care. He's got a white network give him an opportunity to do a documentary, and he botched it. Okay, so that brings me now to the whole point. I wanted to just give you guys a little reminder of how we got here. So let you watch the interview that he's now on as it relates to his documentary, the season 2 documentary of Afrobeats, The Life Story. Take a listen to this.
Working on the second season of the documentary. Yes, I am, yes. Why did you choose Jamaica? Well, I believe there's a direct link between reggae, dancehall, and Afrobeats. In fact, not even a link. We are related. It's the same DNA. So I wanted to come to Jamaica. Instead of doing research from outside, I wanted to come to Jamaica and get into the culture, speak to the people, do some interviews in Jamaica, not just about Jamaicans, but in Jamaica about that connection. So that's the reason why I'm here.
I love that.
Awesome. Yes.
But a quick question. Did you ever think that the movement of Afrobeats would ever become so global, so big? Because did you ever...
Well, I never thought it would get this big, but I wanted it to get this big.
Right.
Like my own, apart from me filming, I've been filming for 20 years, the development of Afrobeats. Like I used to work in music management, so I used to be the manager for D'banj, Don Jazzy. I used to work with Triesman. Yeah, those are my artists. I put them together, 2 of them. Yeah, it was, yeah. So basically, I was just recording my work. I have film school background. I went to film school in Florida. I went to law school as well. But,
perfect.
Yeah, but from law is how I got into music management. So basically, I was just recording everything I was doing, and I recorded from 1999 to 2019. So all those artists, I have videos behind the scenes of all of them while I was working with them.
Right.
And that's what informed me to do this documentary. Right. So I've done the season 1, this is the season 2.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like we said earlier, we have a little bit of the documentary.
Oh, you do?
Just a smidge, just a little bit. I want you to go and watch it. Okay. So yeah, take a look at this. We are going to show you.
Look at me now, Grammy Award winning.
Working on the second season of the documentary.
So I wanted you guys to hear the interview that he recently gave to a channel in Jamaica, right? So he's in Jamaica. Now, why do you want to take a quick guess why he's shooting in Jamaica this season, so-called season 2 of Afrobeat The Life Story? You want to take a quick guess? Okay, let me help you with this. I can almost guarantee you, and here's an exclusive you're going to hear on this program. I can almost guarantee you, based on what he did in the first one, by ascribing Afrobeat creation and foundation to Ghana, I can almost guarantee you heard him say there's a link between Jamaicans and African, and we're all DNA, yada, 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 right? I can almost guarantee you that this whole thing is to then link Afrobeat to Jamaicans. Now, I can almost guarantee you. Now, here's most of you that have been watching me know that Jamaicans are my family, right? You know this. So this is not about trying to smear Jamaicans. Jamaicans are my family. My wife is Jamaican. My kids are half Nigerian, half Jamaican. So this is not about that, right? I love Jamaicans. You're my family. This is not about that. This is about legacy. This is about the foundation of a music genre that we started. This is about one man crusade to really dilute and steal Nigerians' legacy and give it to others. This is about that. This is not about Jamaicans or Ghanaians. No, because when it comes to their music, we celebrate their music. Reggae is Jamaican. I will not allow anyone, just like I was against Stonebwoy when he made that statement last year, and I even did a video about it, talking about how Jamaican music, reggae, is really African music by nonsense, right? I will not allow anyone take Jamaicans' work and their pride when it comes to reggae or reggae dancehall. Same thing, I won't allow anyone take away from African Americans when it comes to hip hop and their creativity when it comes to that music genre. Likewise, I won't allow anyone take away Nigerians' creativity when it comes to Afrobeat. This is what this is about. And so you're having a guy like this who obviously he has an agenda, right? And his agenda, I will tell you, is aligned with the Western agenda, which is to really kind of dilute the origin of this from Nigerians and ascribe it to other people. So we can sit up here and battle it out. Okay? I mean, I don't understand what is such a big deal with just allowing Nigerians their flowers on this. I don't know what the big deal is. I mean, what is the big deal? Will accepting Nigerians for this? No, they don't want to do it. It goes with that whole Western agenda, right? And so that's why they will find one of us to do nonsense like that, because he's probably looking for the bag. This is his opportunity to now shine. This is an opportunity to get his name out there, right? And he's doing a mess with this. He's doing a mess with it, and I can almost guarantee you that that's what this documentary will be about. Please understand that I can almost guarantee you all that when this documentary comes out, it is going to be all offensive, just like the first one was. It will lack all the type of credibility, just like the first one was. The first one was so bad that it didn't even have a Rotten Tomato score. Did you know that? There was no Rotten Tomato score for Afrobeat the Backstory, or the life story, I should say. That's how non-credible that documentary was. And now they want to give you season 2 to force it down your throat. And it's going to do as badly as the first one did. In terms of, because when you think of documentaries, you want to see something that at least is close to the truth as possible. I mean, every documentary has its little flaws, but most documentaries, at least credible documentaries, they try to hit the facts and the truth behind it, right? And he's not getting support from a lot of people, by the way, because I will tell you that most people who know of the history of Afrobeat, the origin of Afrobeat, I can tell you they're not going along with this. So here's a clip that I promised you guys earlier on when he was on Arise TV, when this documentary first kind of released, and they really called him out on it and talked about how you were with the whole Afrobeat you were against the Afrobeat with the S, and now you're with it. What changed? Here's that clip.
Why does the new Nigerian sound?
What is the new Nigerian sound?
What you have chosen to call Afrobeats, the hip hop, the pop, everything. Why does it need or require a new name, a new identity, a new label? I'm asking this because, of course, I watched the entire 12 episodes, and I could see that quite a number of the big names, Tiwa, Simi, Davido, even Uncle Olamide, even Uncle Benson Idonije, who spoke, the grandfather of Burna Boy, they are like, I'm not sure that while they may not mind it, they are not sold on the idea of calling what they are doing Afrobeats. And I know that 4 years ago, you were not an apostle of that name. But then all of a sudden, what do you think that this name will do for us. Without it, we have won the Grammy. Without it, we are filling all the major concert
I
venues.
would say without it, we have won the Grammy.
because-
Afrobeats was part of the reason why they are focusing on our artists for them to get to a point where they are winning the Grammy.
Focusing on the music that we are playing.
The name,
Not the name that it is called.
the name is
But
important.
the name is also beginning to sell. There's a sellability to Afrobeats as just a genre on its own. Some people might not even understand what it is, but they just know, oh, it's
Because
this
a lot of
new
people
genre
think
coming out
that
of Africa.
this is probably like the new fella thing. Because Afrobeat is associated with fella.
With Fela.
And you can't deny the fact that even how many years now that fella has been gone?
1997, 25.
25 years. The fella dynasty is still thriving.
Oh, yeah.
Femi is there, Shane is there, Madi
Madi is
Kuti
now
has
there,
joined,
yeah,
nominated jointly, father and son, for the Grammy. So for me, it is sometimes people miss the S. But then
Oh
they
no,
feel-
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why in episode 11 of my documentary, Afrobeats documentary, Afrobeats the backstory, the first part was Afrobeat without the S, where we got Benson, Uncle Benson Idonije, Tony Allen, God bless his soul, to give us that lecture. Even up to Ghana people, what's the guy from Teddy Osei, from Osibisa, to break it down. And then the second part is Afrobeats with the S. You understand? To let us know what characteristics are in this Afrobeat. Coming back to the naming,
Yes.
we need the identifier. Me and you have had this argument before. It's not an identification, it's an identifier. You know, so everybody will now start to call themselves
Other
their
boys insist on calling his music
Afrofusion.
Afrofusion. Why do you want to deny him that?
No, I'm not
that
denying
privilege
him. No,
of-
I'm not
of
denying
naming
him.
his music.
I'm not denying him. He can call it Afrofusion. I don't agree with it. Afrofusion sounds like a question. Afrofusion sounds like fusion with what? It's like if I say my song is Afrofusion, it should now be like fusion with what? It's like a question. It doesn't sound like a name. It sounds like Afrofusion, or it needs to be continued. Afrobeats is African beats, just like Shonaiya had African beats. Afrobeats
That's the
is
thing.
African beats.
But then you won't accept Shonaiya as part of Afrobeats, even though he was king of African beats. Had been on cover of Time, had been nominated
Why
for
would I
Grammy.
not accept him as
But it's not
Afrobeats?
part of what is being promoted. That is juju, isn't it?
I know, but this documentary is my point of view. You understand? This documentary is my story. It just so happens that it happened at the same time when Afrobeats with the S was developing. That's what I'm saying.
How important is this term, the identifier you just mentioned?
Because of issues like streaming. If you go to a platform, you understand a streaming platform, whether it's what of the streaming whether it's Boomplay, like exactly. So you need a category to go, because when you open the interface, you will see all those different genres. So imagine now that we have Afrofusion. So we have Burna Boy and we have people that want to be in the Afrofusion class.
Before now, where will you go to get our music on a streaming platform? Which category will you click
Yeah,
on?
but that's the thing. You go to world music. What is world music? What is world music?
But that's where we still get our Grammys from.
Fine.
So that's how you know when someone is not credible. You get it, right? And you can tell that the gentleman, from Arise TV, was not buying what he's selling. You can tell that they're not with it. But they have to stay professional and they have to give the interview and all of that good stuff. But they're not with it. Because when you're talking about this types of stuff, we're talking about Nigerian music. You heard him say, where's our music in this whole thing? You heard him say, where's our music there? Because if you're saying that Afrobeat is world music, which is what Ayo is pushing out there, the Afrobeat is the African music, right? Then where's Nigerian music it is? Because it's a slap on all the artists who are pushing Nigerian culture. It's a slap on all Nigerians who have been called derogatory names, and now they have come up with their own music and have invented something that the whole world is prideful of. Now you want to go ahead and dilute their effort by involving other people into this whole thing. No. Yes, we understand collaboration. Yeah, you can collaborate. There's nothing wrong with that. You can have music that inspires your production. Yes, but when you're talking about the origin of the music is what we're talking about here. Just in case you're confused and you don't know what the argument is here. We're talking about the origin of a music genre that has taken the whole world by storm. Is what we're arguing about here. And why should we be arguing this? Right? I mean, next thing this guy would tell me is that Fela was actually, his mother was born, Fela was born in Jamaica or was born in Ghana, but he actually gave, he was giving birth to in Nigeria. You would tell me that's what you're going to find. His mother conceived him in Jamaica and gave birth to him in Nigeria. So guess what? There's a whole bunch of nonsense. And I'm going to stay on it. And I'm not going to tell you not to watch the documentary, because the last thing I want to do is promote this documentary, because I understand human psychology. I tell you not to watch it, you're going to watch it anyway. I am going to watch the documentary because I want to, it's going to give me content. Right? Because I know he's going to watch it, and I know it's going to be a whole bunch of nonsense that's going to be in the documentary. That's going to be as bad as the first one. And so I wanted to give you guys an insight to what's to come with this. And, shame on this entire documentary. There's nothing credible about it. It's not, which is why you're not finding even the Western media, when they talk about Afrobeat, they don't reference the documentary. Have you noticed that? When you find the Western media, the ones that are pushing this narrative, even they themselves know the limit in which they're going to go with this, because they don't want to offend you. And they know that type of statement, which he made in episode 2 of the documentary, was such inflammatory and very false. Even when there's been, proof that Afrobeat was started in Nigeria, you won't find any credible person say that was found in Ghana. You wouldn't. The only person that's going to say this stuff is Ghanaians, because they want to always insert themselves with Nigerians. They're the only ones that are going to push this. No one else is going to push it. Even credible artists in Ghana, old timers, legends who were there when this whole thing was coming up, will tell you that Afrobeat was started in Nigeria. They wouldn't tell you that this whole thing is a collaboration between High Life and that. They wouldn't tell you that, right? And so that's the part that's what gives it no credibility, right? That's why he's not being interviewed by any one of these other platforms. He keeps going to local and very small networks, and no big giants are going to really bring, because once you have if you are bringing out a documentary like this of a large music genre, that's supposed to create a buzz, right? The first one should have created a buzz with all of these networks and say, oh, you know what? There's a documentary on Afrobeats. Let's talk to you about it. But they knew that this is not credible. And why bring that person to the air and give another false, non-credible interview? And it's going to affect and offend the audiences, which you guys are part of those audiences. No, that's why they didn't do it. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time. I'm going to start this story, by the way. I'm going to start this story. See you all next time, everyone.
Och det jag lägger av min tid, jag vill ha det. Nu får mig känna sig